Today we're joined by Michelle, also known as Michelle Mother Hubbard. Michelle joins us today to share her personal experiences of being adopted and to offer some advice and guidance to adoptive parents. Just before Michelle joins us, I wanted to add that what you will hear today are Michelle's personal thoughts and experiences. Everyone's experience of adoption is completely unique and individual to them, and no two stories will ever be the same. So, Michelle, could you tell us a little bit about yourself, please?
Yes, thank you for asking me to do this. It's a pleasure. And well, my name's Michelle Hubbard. I'm known as Michelle Mother Hubbard in the creative world because I'm a poet, a storyteller, an African drummer, a public speaker, a theatre maker. And I think all of that is to do with because I'm adopted.
Wow, that's a lot of things, Michelle.
So it's fun, and I do like, so genuinely when I say I think it's to do with being adopted, I think it's that having so many different life experiences, such a colourful life with so many stories to it, and that I'm nosy and I love hearing other people's stories, and I love to be able to share my own. And my dad, so when I say dad, that's my adopted father, the only parent I did trace, as we'll go on to, but the only parents I know I call mum and dad. But my dad was such a storyteller, and I guess I've got it from him.
Wow.
Yeah,
So do you think kind of storytelling and that creativeness, did that help your relationship? Did it help deepen the connection?
yeah, I think it did. Well, I think that's where it came from, and I don't want to jump forward to things you
No
might
fight.
ask me, but that always knowing I was adopted. And I remember saying to my parents once I got to being a teenager, and now, although my dad's since passed 6 years ago, I said to my mum, but how did you tell us? Because we've always known, I say us, got an adopted brother that was adopted a year after me, not blood brother. But anyway, we always knew. So I suppose they've always they said they just told us stories about it. It was just part of everyday conversation.
Oh, wow.
And like I said, my dad was a great storyteller, and my mum was kind of, I guess, the one that was always busy in the house. And I suppose to look on reflection as an adult, looking back, I suppose my dad giving my mum some time, and in the evening before he went to work, he worked nights, he'd read us stories. I say read, that's a lie. He told us stories he never read,
Wow.
and he'd make up these amazing stories. I do it now for my grandchildren. So, yeah, and that being able, I suppose, without him knowing and consciously, and it's only now as an adult where I realise that being empowered through storytelling and knowing you can tell your own story and you can make things up and you can talk about whatever you want to talk about.
Yeah.
And I've always been very talkative. School reports always said Michelle talks too.
I can relate to that.
So it was just like, well, you know what, let's just channel that then.
Yeah, why not? What were your adoptive family like, Michelle?
I said great, I guess, sums them up in one word.
Oh,
So my family unit was mum and dad, which are white, English, married couple, Catholic, because I was adopted through the Catholic Children's Society.
okay.
They couldn't have children. And then a year later, after adopting me, they adopted a baby brother for me,
Wow.
who is also, well, he is mixed race, but his father was mixed race. So if you want to break it down into percentages or
Okay.
fractions, he's a quarter.
Wow. So what was it like growing up with parents whose kind of racial identity was different to yours? How did that feel as a child?
It's such an interesting, question with, and do you know, every time I answer it to people, when people ask me, it's different each day, really.
Oh,
And I guess on the audiences that I'm talking to, because I think sometimes people want you to go, oh, it was traumatic, it was horrendous.
yeah.
I was a child in a family with loving parents, and that was amazing.
Yeah.
But it wasn't kind of the family. The family didn't make it difficult. Society made it difficult.
Really?
So I was painfully aware that I looked different to the rest of the family. So whilst my brother's skin tone is probably the same as mine, he's got completely straight hair and what I can, European features.
Okay.
But I always just felt different, and I grew up in a predominantly white area, and we went to. Not only did we not go to the local schools, we went to Catholic schools, which were out of the area,
Okay.
so excluded. So I always felt, and always was, different. I felt that I didn't fit in, and I wanted to fit in, and I wanted to be like my parents. So it was confusing, and it was conflicting, and at times it was frustrating, and sometimes I actually felt ashamed of it.
Oh, really?
So yeah, but not all the time. Do you know what I mean? I didn't walk around thinking,
Yeah.
but more as you get older, as a teen, and as you do as teenagers, you think about who you are and your own self awareness.
Of course.
And then on top of that, you've got the layers of, but I'm adopted, so who am I? And also, but I'm mixed race, so who am I? Because I've been brought up as a black mixed child in a white family. So yeah, there was all those layers. So our family, my dad was one of four brothers, and my mum had got one sister.
Okay.
So our family unit was, my dad sort of, I was with cousins and aunties and uncles. My parents kind of didn't have friends, but their family was friends.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of family. My dad's parents lived at Mablethorpe, which was amazing. So I think the first thing they ever did when they adopted me at a matter of months old was, get in the car and take me to Mablethorpe. My life was very happy. We went to Mablethorpe often. But yeah, I always looked and felt different. And although I've always known, like I've said, I loved at Christmas when they went up for the Christmas tree, and I knew that the adoption papers were up there as well.
Oh,
And it was like, look at them. Yeah. It was this magical time when I used to say, can I have a look at the papers? Even before I knew what they were. So I always knew that I had a Jamaican birth father and an Irish birth mother, and I was aware they were both married but not to each other, and that I was the result of an extramarital affair.
Okay.
So, but being Catholic is where the shame and the guilt comes in. Was Catholic, not now, but yeah, being brought up with that, I think, and my birth mother being Irish Catholic, I think it's not so much even being ashamed of being adopted. It was this whole package of the messages you taught through that, and knowing that, you're a child of sin and you were from out of wedlock and all these things, and then being mixed on top of it. It was just this thing that made me think like I was a sin in itself. I'm laughing because that's both sad and funny, because you don't think of that all the time as a child.
No.
But it was there.
That's huge, Michelle. There's a lot
It
there,
is.
isn't there? And
Yeah.
that wanting to feel a sense of belonging, that just in general.
Yeah.
I know you said your mum and dad, you didn't ever feel like that at home, but external to the home, that must have been really difficult.
Yeah, very. And funny enough, a couple of days ago, I took my granddaughter up to my mum's, and I don't know how we got. Because we were looking at all the photos on the wall. Mum's very proud of all the family, and of course, then my granddaughter said to my mum about. Didn't anybody ever used to ask you questions about Michelle? And didn't people used? And she said, yeah, all the time. And anyway, there was an incident that somebody that I used to play with that just lived down the road, down the alleyway from where I lived. One day she said to me, I was about 8, I think. She said, your parents aren't your real parents. You haven't got real parents. You're fostered. And I knew I wasn't fostered.
That word wasn't one you'd got.
Yeah, I thought, that's not a word I've grown up hearing. I hadn't heard it before, didn't know what it meant, but I knew she was wrong. I'm not fostered. She goes, you're adopted. It's the same thing. It means that your parents aren't yours, and if they don't want you, they can send you back. And I was devastated.
I bet.
Like, devastated, wounded, literally.
I bet.
I went and told my parents, and this is no criticism to my parents, it's just that, trying to cope. She just went, just ignore her, and the old sticks and stones,
Yeah.
and don't worry about it. But I did worry about it constantly for a long, long time. I actually couldn't sleep. I cried myself to sleep for about 5 nights after that, because I
Really?
didn't understand it. I didn't know if it was true.
Mm.
I did know that I didn't come from them. I didn't grow in mummy's tummy.
Yeah.
And I was terrified. So family life, but it was the mean things that people say and the mean looks that we got all the time.
Wow.
And interestingly, um, so there was a lot of, especially then, this is the early 1960s, and growing up in a rural, rural mining village in Gedlim. So it
Wow.
was very narrow-minded. Um, and the racism. My parents experienced discrimination through having me, obviously
Really?
not racism because they're white English, but particularly if my mum was on her own with me on a bus, she'd be called words that I'm not going to repeat, but
Oh my
things like that.
goodness.
And obviously part of us thinking, no, I wasn't. I haven't been with a black man. This is my child. But at the same time thinking, but so what if I had?
Yeah.
So my parents faced a lot of um, discrimination by having a black mixed child, and people's responses and perceptions to one had my mum, looking at my mum and thinking, am I from her? So has she had an affair? And also
Wow.
thinking, then why did they adopt a black child? Why didn't they have a white child? And they had sarcastic comments from friends and family about not. So one family had said to it famously, my mum still quotes when somebody had said to her, how did you get one of them sort? We wanted one of them, but they only go to vicars and judges, one of them being
What?
black children. But things like that, that we still talk about now, they still laugh. But yeah,
But they
so
feed
it's been,
into a feeling, don't they? A general feeling, I imagine, having
yeah,
not experienced that. There must kind of always be this undercurrent of unease and feeling uncomfortable.
yeah, that's the thing. There's this constant, a background noise of people, and the noise from, the thoughts that you can hear
Yeah.
just when they look at you. So even when people don't verbalize it, you hear it, you see the looks. Um, and at school and at junior school, obviously, and I'm still friends with some people that I went to school with now.
Oh, good.
And they said they always knew I was adopted, but they were always told, as it was back then, you don't ask. So they knew Michelle's adopted and that's that. So they accepted it. It's just part of your life, isn't it? Like we
Yeah.
went to school with somebody whose dad died young and we knew that, but we weren't allowed to ask. We went to school with somebody else that was from a large Irish family, and their mother had left them when they were young and were brought up with their father. You never ever talk about that. You don't know how you know. You've been told at some point.
Yeah.
You don't ask. So it was only when going to big school when people then see you and see, when people saw my mum, there was no
Mm.
questions asked. It's quite plausible for me to have come from my mum, but it's when they saw my dad. Who's that? If my dad got me from the school disco,
Mm.
I'd say it's my dad because
Because he
it
is.
was. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what they meant. And then I became painfully aware as, once going up to big school, wow, something's wrong, something's odd, something's not right. I feel uncomfortable. People are
Wow.
asking me questions. Why are they? I thought people don't ask questions about such things. And I started to feel uncomfortable being seen with my dad, and I feel really guilty about this. He gave the game away. That's how it felt. I
Yeah.
thought, well, if I'm not with him, nobody's going to ask me. So I wanted my mum to pick me up from school discos, not my
Of
dad, because then there
course.
wouldn't be any questions. And that's, looking back. In fact, I'll end up getting emotional.
Oh.
It's me going, I'm not traumatised by it. Of course, there are moments of things you look back at. And yeah, as a child, you shouldn't have to take those thoughts on board,
No. No, you shouldn't.
because it couldn't have been easy for them as well
No.
as it wasn't always easy for me. Yeah.
But that's looking at it, with the wisdom and the experience of being an adult now, isn't it? And at the time, it was self preservation, and you
Of
can never
course.
blame yourself for that.
That's
Everybody
right.
does that. How do you think, if you don't mind me asking, Michelle, how do you think those feelings that you experienced in childhood, do you think that they impacted on you as an adult? Do they still, or not so much?
Um, yes, they do, but I'd say more positively because,
Okay.
when I say positively, it gave me this like, it's probably why I talk so much and why I'm nosy, because as well as a child, it made me feel embarrassed. It did also make me think, so who are these other people? Where are they? Are they still alive? Why did they get? Well, I knew the why. I knew they gave me. I did know I wasn't. I knew I was an extramarital child, but I didn't understand, didn't know any of the complexities or the dynamic. I knew nothing other than that. So that gave me this nosy curiosity. And then when I was 18, I had my first child, and when I was pregnant, they obviously ask you family medical history.
Yeah.
I didn't know. And that was a real, not trigger. Trigger sounds like it's that word now. Trigger is tend to associate with something wrong happening.
Yeah.
A turning point, a
Okay.
pivotal moment of thinking, yeah, I don't know my family history. What
Hmm.
is it? And I want to know. And I'm
Yeah.
nosy, so I'm going to find out. And And then I did think also, there's this child growing inside me I can feel moving, and I'm scared because actually I'm young and I'm at home, and it was this shame and disgrace that I'm pregnant early, this young mum, and
Oh,
was with my children's father, um, but yeah, it just made me think, so how did she feel when she was pregnant? And I'm really
yeah.
scared, so I suddenly had a connection because I'd always not thought about my birth mother, or
Mm.
thought about her but not felt any sympathy is the word.
Of course. Yeah.
Whereas all of a sudden I was thinking, wow, this feeling, just for one, of having morning sickness constantly. How did she feel when she couldn't feel me moving
Hmm.
inside? It's scary being pregnant. Actually, it must have been scary being pregnant when you know it's not your husband's and it's somebody else's, and it's going
Yeah.
to look different from your other children. So it opened all of those questions.
I bet.
Um, and so it did make me think, actually, there's a whole identity that I felt at times embarrassed about, at times uncomfortable with, and at times ashamed of, that actually
Mm.
I want to learn about and I want to know about, and I'm determined not to be denied it anymore. So that was why my initial search was to find my birth father, because I thought, oh, well, my mum's white and I've been brought up in white society, white family,
Hmm.
white school, white church, everything. So I want to know about the black side, the Caribbean side, which is what led me to trying to trace my birth father. Because I
Wow.
thought, I don't know anything about that. That's been hidden from me in many ways. So that's where that search began. I'm
How
laughing
did
because I can hear myself going all over the shop. I
you
do
know?
that.
You're not. You're not at all. You're not, and it is that, at different ages and stages,
Mm,
you perceive it differently. I imagine you feel differently.
yeah,
You've talked about, that you suddenly had this connection because you were going through a similar experience, and
yeah,
that's huge, isn't it?
it is.
How did that go when you tried to trace your birth father? If you don't mind me
And
asking.
actually, yes. So, and I just need to jump back to where I'd kind of started
Yeah,
then.
yeah,
Actually, giving birth, so all the not knowing family history, but giving birth, even though I was only 18, for the first time in my life, seeing something that looked like me.
yeah.
That was, even now, I can't even give you the words for that, other than, oh, it might make me emotional, but it was amazing. It's
Oh.
like, so you grow up. My mum has a sister,
Hmm.
and her daughter, she has two daughters. One of her daughters is my mum's double. So I've grown up always
Really?
hearing, oh, don't our Joanne look like our Maureen? Oh, and they're so alike. And you always think, like that, me,
What about
yeah,
me?
what about
Yeah,
me? And there's never
of
any
course.
references to you. Oh, Andrew, my brother. You don't know that as a child, but you think, I want somebody to tell me who I look like. Why don't I look like mum? Why don't I look like dad? And you just love to hear it because it's background tape that you're hearing all the
Yeah,
time about all your other family members. Oh, he's like his dad, he is doing that. Nothing when it comes to us. So the
really.
first time there was this, oh my goodness. And it kind of was like seeing into the future and seeing into the past by holding this little thing. And then all of a sudden, my aunties and uncles going at the age of 18, oh, doesn't he look like our Michelle? Oh, look at the eyes. Oh, look at it. I thought, I'm real. I
Yeah, you
exist.
can see me. Yeah.
And the nearest I can describe that to, which I've only found the words for recently in talking to somebody else, is it's a bit like Pinocchio being made by Geppetto, and he said, you're my child. But he doesn't look anything like him, and he's not made from the same fabric as him. And for the first time, you've found the fabric that you're made from. And it's amazing.
Oh, wow.
So that set me thinking. So my children's, I have 3 children, father being Caribbean, that sort of, so my children are darker than mine. They're 3/4 if you want to do percentages. So again, seeing, this black reflection and wanting to know. So that led me to trace in my birth father, went to the Catholic Children's Society. And what's lovely about it, my adoptive parents, because they've always included me, told me about being adopted, and, it was just one of those things. Yeah. I did the same in return. I said, I'm curious about it. I want to know. I'm looking into it. And they were like, oh, well, let's get the papers out of the loft. Oh, Catholic Children's Society. I think it's still there. Let's go and have a look. Let's phone them. Let's look in the phone book and see if they still exist.
Oh, wow.
So I included them at every stage of saying, I think I'm going to find out. And I still lived at home then. So it was like, will you dial the number for me? Because I didn't. Oh, what if nobody answers? And my mum's like, give me the phone. Come here. So all the way along, they've been included. Tried for 6 years and got nowhere.
Really?
And then the other part, which I might sidetrack, because I've currently got a show that, being a creative and theatre maker, I've recently, on the 18th of July, did a show called Did I Mention I'm Adopted? So it's like a creative and poetic conversation where I talk through more or less everything that I've said now, up to the point of when I find my first birth relative, which happened to be my sister Dawn, who's mixed race. We have same dads, different mums. So I tried through the system in every way I could. And in fact, not that this will pick up, but this is the paperwork of the 6 years of me trying. And actually, I wasn't really given much paperwork at the time. They wouldn't let me see my files. And that is because my birth mother's husband was the one that had the legal rights over me when I was born, because
that's how it works legally.
You're married. Yeah. It's not his child, but he signed the paperwork over for adoption and everything.
Yeah.
So my birth father, chops and changes, I didn't know until I traced him and found him, that he found out when I was born, and with his wife consent, because she couldn't have children, his wife, they wanted to adopt me. I didn't know any of this until being, at 27. But that was amazing to think that. But yeah, it was just like, well, it's got nothing to do with you, you're biologically, but he had no rights over me.
Wow.
So tried tracing through the system, got nowhere. And then had a friend, the black community tends to be, everybody knows everybody, quite connected. So his friend said, I hadn't spoken to him for ages. He phoned one day and said he was at college in Newark, which is where my family was from. Anyway, I said to him, throwaway comment, if you see any other black people, what you're doing there as a black person, you'll be on your own. But if you see any other people, ask them if this is the surname, and if so, they're related to me. And he said, why? And I said, have I told you I'm adopted? And I hadn't told him, because you think everybody knows, like when you're little, everybody knows, just don't talk about it. So I think now the world knows. Like I walk around with this badge saying, but don't talk about it because your mum won't let you. And anyway, he literally phoned me back 10 minutes later and said, I found the sister and know where your dad is. And I was like, you're joking? No. And I went into this thing, and then I suddenly realised he was a joker. I thought, this is a practical joke. And I was like, no, you can't do that.
Oh, please tell me it wasn't.
I was like, and then he went, Michelle, I thought he was going to apologise, and he went, I'm not joking. He says, you got a sister that she lives in Newark, but she actually works in Nottingham at a jeweller's in Victoria Centre. And I know the day and the time because I glimpsed at the time when he told me that she worked at a shop in Victoria Centre, because I looked up and it was 20 to 6 and I knew the shops shut at half
No.
5, because if they hadn't, I'd have rushed into town there and then and tried to find her.
Would you?
It did mean I couldn't sleep overnight, but it gave me, so I say, I'm laughing and there is a lot of humour, but, on a serious thing, I am very fortunate. I do feel very fortunate and privileged, and don't underestimate the fact that I was lucky enough to trace. And I always tell all the positive sides of it because it has been amazing, but it's not all smooth.
No,
Um,
absolutely not.
but I suppose, the only good thing about the system that I'd tried through over the years was it became frustrating and I kind of gave up hope. But you get
Yeah.
that used to getting nowhere, that you've processed every emotion in your mind. You still can't process, just the same as like if somebody tells you someone's going to die and you know they're going to. It's still a shock when they do. It was
Yeah.
still massive finding my sister. But the fact that you dealt with all of this frustration meant, okay, let me put the brakes on. What might happen if I go and look for her? What if he's got this mixed up? What if? Because I knew nothing other than there's this sister. So it made me think, okay, they've got children. There might be more children. She might have, there might be more brothers and sisters. The mum and dad's, because I knew she wasn't from my mum, because I knew that when they said that, she was from Newark and mixed race. So I did have to stop and think, is this going to break up a family? Is this going to hurt people? I know this will be fulfilling my needs, but I've got to think about the other people first. And so
That's
I
so
went
kind.
through a whole load of get out clauses in my head of each stage. I knew what roughly I'd say if I found where she worked. And then what I'd say and how I'd say it carefully. So at any point she either looked hurt, upset, shocked, angry, or suddenly lost her temper with me, I'd got in my head, I knew what I was going to say to get out of it. It was just simple. I was
Oh,
going to
wow.
say, I told myself a simple little thing that I was going to throw in 2 middle names of my birth father. And if she
Okay.
said no, which it wouldn't have been because they were the bit that was going to be my get out clause, I'd have gone, oh, wow, what a coincidence, And then I'd have
How
changed the
clever.
dates. But I knew I'd got to protect other people.
That's so self-sacrificing
So
though in that moment, isn't it? When you,
I think that comes from being adopted and brought up.
that's amazing though.
But yeah, but amazingly, yeah, I should say, and if you want to know more, come and see the show. It's going
Yeah.
at Nottingham Playhouse on Friday, the 25th of October. And you will
There we
see
go.
my sister that I traced. Because at the point when I talk through this
Oh.
story and then say that when I ask, is your name Dawn Hewitt? She stands up in the audience. I plant her on the front row. Whoops, spoiler alert.
Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah, don't we're not going to ask you to tell us all of your
Yeah,
shows
because I'd
because
be here
that
for
wouldn't be fair.
70 minutes. It takes 70 minutes.
I'd be quite happy to do that. But
Yes, it was. I've been lucky, and that was my first, point of tracing. So Dawn, who again we won't go down there because I'll go on forever, but she lived less than half a mile away from me. She didn't live in Newark. We actually lived off the same main road, which was unbelievable. And when I met her, she actually told me that my birth father had been at her house and stayed there for a couple of weeks the year before I traced her. Which was amazing
no.
because he actually lived in Canada, came from Jamaica, but moved to Canada. So that's all part of it. But so I was very content then and was for years. And then when I had my
Yeah,
second child, I think that got me thinking about my birth mother. And then I thought,
of
I don't know
course.
if she's alive or not either. And actually, it was more than 6 years. Was it about 10 years later? Now, I think I started the process maybe about 6 years after that, but wasn't successful till about 10 years. But anyway, and traced my birth mother, who I'd always told, had been told had gone back to Ireland and started a new life, and she's just 45 miles away from me. Yeah,
Really?
which is amazing. And that went quite well, fairly well. I do have siblings that, I guess in short, don't accept me, but that's fine. Do you know what I mean? And I understand that that's difficult for them. But I do have siblings, from her that I do get on with into Ireland, and so. But that doesn't upset me because it's like having a jigsaw puzzle being adopted,
Yeah.
and depending on how much information you've been given is how many pieces of this jigsaw you've got, but you're given this jigsaw that isn't complete. So as you go along, you might get some bits of information, which is like getting pieces of the jigsaw. But the jigsaw doesn't come with a picture on the box. You've got no idea what picture you're making. So as you go along, you might get bits that you think, oh, I don't like the look of that. But you're satisfied because your picture's being complete. So that's what
Yeah.
tracing does. You might not like the picture, but you are completed. You have the pieces and you slot them together. And I think that's what's important. Even when people know that they're, because I'm aware a lot of people that have been placed for adoption might have had to have been, could have been taken from situations and put up for adoption as a matter of protection, and
Yeah.
might have experienced abuse and stuff. But I still think that those people have got a right to know, because even if, like I say, even if when you've completed your jigsaw, it's not a pretty picture, it's your picture, and it's now complete and it's valid, and it might make you cry and it might break your heart. Because I always had this isn't a fact, by the way, I always had this niggling thought in the back of my head as a child, and I'm aware this is a little trigger because obviously for some people this will be their fact. But I thought, what if I'm the result of rape? And it
Absolutely.
doesn't
Yeah.
change who I am, but it was there. I don't know why that was there. I don't know where it came from. I think because of the secrecy, or the assumed secrecy, because the papers tell you so little. So I
Yeah.
thought, gosh, that must mean, I think that's it. I thought, because you don't understand, things have changed now. But then I thought the fact that there's so little information must mean there's some really bad things happened here.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's, yeah.
Your brain does fill in gaps for you, doesn't it? And
Yeah,
and more often than not, it goes towards a negative than a positive, and that's why it is so important, I think, to tell children age appropriately, but
yeah,
as much as you possibly can, because that filling in the gaps isn't always the most helpful
that's right.
thing, is it?
Yeah. And even if the gaps or the facts aren't, like you said, it's what's age appropriate, but it's still relevant to know certain things, but in a way that's gentle, in a way that's definitely age appropriate. That's a good word for that.
Yeah. It's filling in the jigsaw, like you said,
Yeah,
and that's so important.
yeah,
I know you said that you'd always known that you were adopted, and it was just, your parents did storytelling and lots of things. Do you think that was helpful for you? Do you think knowing you would have preferred that to not knowing?
definitely. And I guess that's the good thing as well. So although I think about 15 years ago, I was involved on the outskirts of, there was a lot of research being looked into,
Hmm.
transracial adoption, black and brown children being placed in white families, to the point where it wasn't going to be allowed to happen anymore. And there was a book, looking for it, done through the BBC, a booklet, a research called Love Is Not Enough. Actually, love is enough. We need more than just love, but actually,
Of course.
if I'd have been left in the orphanage, and not given a family because of my colour, it's almost like you're being punished further, that, and because you're
Yeah.
brown, black, you're not being put up for adoption, so, you need a family. And ideally, if you can be culturally aligned with people
Mm.
that look like you, can tell your story, understand your experiences, the negative as well as the positive ones, so can actually
Yeah.
understand and help you deal with and cope with racism and attitudes of society. That's
Hmm.
that's better than not having it. But yeah, that good thing about being placed in a family that you don't look like, whatever that, well, for whatever that is it's never a secret. So they couldn't have thought,
Yeah.
oh, we just won't tell her.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's good being told, and I guess the fact that they couldn't hide it meant that they've got to find a way of incorporating it into
Yeah.
the stories of
And
family.
do you think the stories were the best way for you to be able to understand it, or do
Yeah,
you
I
think?
think so. I can't remember any of them. I just know that I've always known I'm adopted, but I know they never came and said to me. There's never been a point where I thought, I remember that day they told me. So it's more the fact that they've obviously just spoke about it and must have said things again. They must
Mhm.
have said age appropriate stuff. I can't
Yeah.
ever remember them saying anything, but they must have said, like when I tell the story to my grandchildren, the youngest of which are 4-year-old twins, and I've been trying to explain to them since they were about 2 because they don't
Right.
understand why I'm a different colour to my mum. In fact, we're all, why we're all so many different colours. They
Yeah.
probably, I'm assuming, had said stuff like, as I do, once upon a time, there's this little princess
Yeah.
with the 2 twins. There was these, twin princesses. They must have just said once upon a time there was this little baby called Michelle, and mummy and daddy couldn't have had any children, and they went to get her. And I'm literally just ad libbing this. They must have said stuff
Yeah.
like that because I've always known, but there's never been a moment where I thought, oh, I first heard it. It was obviously part of life, and because my dad did tell stories, and I was
Mhm.
brought up on nursery rhymes, which is probably why I'm a poet. They must have just included it within the words of that.
Yeah, and it was just natural.
Yeah, yeah. So even humorous things, I used to read the Billy Goat's Gruff to my oldest son, and at the point where where the troll pops its head up from under the bridge,
Yeah.
I always used to tell him it was him. It's humour, but you don't know what. But the same, they must have included me positively. No, but I used to say, when little boys think they're like, and little girls
Yeah.
as well. But when I used to say, out pop the troll, out the troll from the
Oh.
bridge, and he did laugh. He knew it was funny. I used to say it was so ugly they had to call it, and then I'd say his name, which sounds really funny. He laughed. He still laughs. We still have to talk, because he liked the fact of thinking he was this troll under the bridge. So
Yeah.
still did something similar. So I've always known, and that's the good thing about being in a
Oh.
transracial adopted situation.
Yeah, it's out there, isn't it? It's
Yeah,
it's facts.
yeah.
I know you said there wasn't much paperwork, so I guess really that answers this question. But in terms of, as you grew older, and did you have all of the information you wanted? I imagine not. So
No,
what was it that you feel you were missing, or that would have helped?
um, it's not even just the fact. It is the facts, and it's not just the facts about your birth parents. And obviously, if they don't give
Hmm.
anymore, there's nothing. But you want stuff like, where does my nature nurtured, is the poetry and the storytelling and the public speaking side of me, has that come from my dad? So when I say dad, my adopted dad, the only dad I've ever known
Yeah.
as a child, um, being very creative as well. Or has that come from somewhere on the birth side of the family? And is that, so if you're lucky enough to trace, you can ask your family members where that comes from. Or is it just,
Hmm.
yourself? But sometimes things are passed through. So it's things like that you don't know. And paperwork wise, it literally told me my birth mother's name, my birth father's name, told me the addresses that they lived at the time. Um, and I think it must have said that I was an extramarital child. And it said, Irish mother, Jamaican father, and that's as much as I know. And it wasn't enough.
Really?
And so when I started tracing, like I said, the fact that my birth mother and her husband were the ones that had the legal rights over me as to whether to keep me or give me
Hmm.
up. So my birth father, um, I couldn't trace. So even when I traced him, I still couldn't see my records, which was very frustrating. And I said, but I know him and I've met him and this and that. So I had some
Yeah.
bits and they let me have. No, they didn't, because it still contained information about my birth mother and I hadn't traced her. So it was kind of crazy because by this point I was 32 when I traced my birth mother, and I was 24 when I traced my birth father. So there was that 8-9 years of still not being allowed, being an adult, got children myself, got 3 children by that point when I was 32, and not being allowed to see my documentation. Things have possibly changed now, but that was in 1995.
Wow.
And it's once I'd traced my birth mother that then, or in the process of tracing, and sort of just almost got there, that they let me have copies of my birth file. I'd actually like the originals. I think I have one original piece of paper in here that's something that she wrote, and I think they gave me that by mistake. I think they thought they photocopied it, but it was lovely to see a bit of paper with handwriting on that I've obviously since, shown my birth mother. And, it's nice that we've been able to go through all of that, because there was stuff that even she didn't know. I was her child, it was her file, but there was information that her husband had said and put on paperwork that she wasn't privy to, that she didn't know until I traced her.
Really?
Just small details, but that she still wasn't aware that he'd said and wrote those things. So yeah, it's interesting. The paperwork is important, and I think as knowing as much as possible it is better. And I think if it included things like photos, which I believe those things happen now, but mine there was nothing picture. I think if there was a magic wand that said what would you have liked or what could you have had, that some people do, it would have been maybe item of clothing of mine from being a baby, item of clothing or personal object of my birth parents, photos, information about, because I'd always thought, I don't even know if I've got other brothers and sisters. And another twist to the tale here is on my father's side, I'm one of 14, and I grew up thinking I've got a family, and it's stuff like that. Obviously, at the time, you wouldn't have had 14 other children at the time I was born. Just knowing you have got brothers and sisters, and that I didn't know that my birth mother had already got 3 children before me and had one after me. I know it would have been good to know that.
Of course, it would, and it's information that people can just take for granted knowing, really, day to day, isn't it? It's really interesting you say about the handwriting, because it's something I've never given much thought to, but I can see the impact and the power that would have.
You're physically holding a piece of paper that was hers, and she's touched it. Because I even smelt it. It doesn't smell of anything, but your instinct is, it's an animal instinct. I need to smell it. Does it smell of her? What does she smell like? It doesn't. But I know she held that piece of paper in 1964 and wrote on it with a pen that was hers, or something that a bit, but I'm holding something that was a result of her body making these marks with a pen, and I've got that piece of paper. It's amazing, because that was the nearest to flesh that you get. I'm touching something that's got her DNA imprint maybe left behind, some forensics.
Yeah. Well, we don't often stop and think about those sensory things that you can touch, things that you can smell, or we don't think about those, but I can't imagine how much they mean to.
That's it. And it's very, and I guess depending on how you're wired as a person, but I'm very, I'm very sensory. And I've got, anyway, this is my dad. When I say my dad, my adoptive. So I recently wrote, that's upside down, this book called Dad, Diagnosis Alzheimer's Dementia, because my dad got dementia. That's my dad's pipe. So I've done everything in this book and the photo. But being a sensory person, so I'm looking over my shoulder because the pipe's over here somewhere, I still love to pick the pipe up and smell it, because I can smell my dad.
I bet.
And I would have liked things that I could smell even if they didn't have a smell on them. I think I'd have imagined, being a creative, I'd have liked to have imagined the smell.
Oh, wow. I guess it really just just to ask you the final question, hopefully, we've got our adopters listening to this, and potentially people who are interested in adopting. What messages would you like to give to adoptive parents? What things should they hold in mind and try to remember, do you think?
And that is a lovely question, because obviously everybody's different in individuals, but of all the people that I've since met through my journey of giving talks and doing stuff like this now, and friends that, and even as an adult, finding other people that are adopted, the truth is key to everybody, no matter how bad the truth is or isn't. It's yours, and you've got a right to own it. And it might mean that you might need some counselling through some of that truth, but that's fine, because it's the truth. There is nothing, more. There is nothing greater than the truth, and we deserve the truth in all of its glory. And I think for everybody to be as brave and honest and open and say, people don't always get it right, whether you're adopted or a birth family or a step family or whatever. Humans, we don't always get things right. So it's okay to make some mistakes, but it's the trying that matters. And
Yeah.
if there are whatever, if there are families that are adopting children of different makeup to them, so whether that's colour, whether it's culture, whether it's country, community, or religion, to include their stories. Of don't feel that as well as embracing the children, you've got to embrace their culture. And I know I've taught since being an adult, and my tracing journey taught a lot to my adoptive parents, so it's enriched their lives as well. And I think that's the thing. So there's these small things, like even down to, I mean, my hair's always been wild actually, but nowadays things are different. There was no hair oil around when I was young. My mum wouldn't have even known about it if there was, my adoptive family. And those things, being brought up in an area where nobody looks like you. I mean, today there's lots of black dolls and stuff. I had one black doll, and it was ugly. It was literally just this doll that had been painted like black with this awful
Right.
hair. They weren't positive then. They're gorgeous now. I look at the
No.
children. I look at the toys my grandchildren have got, and I'm jealous. I play with them as well.
Yeah. Just snatch them, Michelle. It's all right. Just take them off them. Yeah.
Finding, I know, sorry if it sounds like I don't answer questions straight away, because my brain thinks of
You
5
do.
answers at once. And to tailor that
I
in,
get that.
Nottingham Carnival, a couple of weeks ago, somebody came up to a group of friends that I was with, and there was a mixed group of men and women. And I've seen them at other things that I've been to. So it's a white couple with a mixed race boy. And they came up and they were saying he'd got a Jamaican flag, and they asked if he could take pictures with us. And I've been to other things and festival where they do the same. And I've suddenly clicked, I think he's either fostered or adopted, and they're doing a fantastic job of taking him along to things, letting him see photographs stood with people that look like him, that reflect him, and that are having fun. Because I went to something called Reggae in Skeggy, Skegness Reggae Fest. And I remembered I saw them there as well. And I remember them asking then. They're doing it in a very subtle way, and they're very, can they have a picture with you? Is it okay? And he's got Jamaican heritage as well, and he's got this flag. And I think, how beautiful. So they're saying,
Yeah.
we can't give you these this backstory, but let's take you to places that include you, that have got your backstory, and people now that you can look at pictures. So I didn't have any family photos of there were no colour in my upgrowing family photos. So for that boy to see himself as a young person, he looks like he's a young teen, in photographs surrounded by other people doing positive things, because the media will just say, you see so much negative things when it comes, particularly if it's if you're a person that's of a non-white background from a country with a religion or a culture that's not the host country, and then you're excluded. So to see
Yeah.
positive things, that's it's perfect. So him going along and being at these things and eating, Jamaican patty and rice and peas and standing with a group of guys that's just really positive, listening to some music, wrapped in a Jamaican flag. That's beautiful.
It
Some,
is.
and some people might think that's tokenistic, but I think that's better than the nothing. And I actually don't
Yeah.
think it's tokenistic. I think it's beautiful, you know.
Oh, I think so.
Because then you're proud of
Embracing
yourself
him for
and not
all that he
ashamed of
is.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, oh, yeah, this is me, this is my culture, you know. And you can take it
That
or
is
leave it. Then
lovely.
as he gets a lot older, he'll have been brought up around that then, and he probably thinks, oh, why do I need to search this? That's because he's included in it. Whereas anything that you're told not to,
Yeah.
as a child, don't go in that top cupboard over
Oh,
there.
yeah.
Don't go in the cupboard the second your parents go out, So,
Yeah, you do.
trace that side of your family. That's the first thing you're going to do.
Yeah. Michelle, I do it as an adult still. Oh, don't look in there.
Me
That's
too.
still.
That's what makes me get most of the things that I do and have done in life have come from people telling me that I can't, you know.
Oh, Michelle, that's been amazing.
And
Thank
I'm
you.
sure it's
Thank you
longer than
so
you
much.
planned it to be.
Absolutely not. It's brilliant. Been a pleasure, Michelle. Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity. It's been really nice. And I do
No,
hope
it's
that it connects with, people that are adopted and have adopted and given up children for adoption.
a huge thank you to Michelle for giving up her time to share so openly her adoption experiences. We hope that you found this episode useful and that it gave you some food for thought around supporting children with their identity and the power of stories. If you have any questions, any suggestions, or you'd like to join us on the podcast, then please don't hesitate to contact us. You can drop us an email at podcast@adoption-focus.org.uk. Thanks for listening.